was two athletes. It was the heat of the moment.
It was a 1 in a million punch.
And it just met, and you knew it was not nice.
I didn't see it, but I heard it. I hope I never ever have to hear or see anything like that again. It was scary.
Rudy was laying face down in a large, expanding pool of blood.
And it was just right around his face, and it started expanding.
Some question whether he was going to make it through that particular night.
It just wasn't a pretty thing. And in Kermit's case, his life was changed forever that night. He can't forget that night.
Nairobi, the capital of Kenya, and worlds away from the NBA. It is where Kermit Washington now spends most of his time. He has come this far to try to escape his past. Once, he was an NBA All-Star, 6 foot 8 inches, 250 pounds, the prototypical power forward. But now, all that is lost in the shadow of one moment that changed another man's life, and ultimately, his own.
I don't think I'm needed in America anymore because, you know, as an athlete I was needed, and other things I thought I could do, it seems like nobody wanted me to help or be part of it, so I'm wasting my time in America. They don't know who I am. They don't know that I played basketball. They don't know any of that, which is good. So I'm not being judged at all by people. So they just, tall black guy, looks like us a little bit, but I don't tell any of them I ever played. They say, oh, did you play basketball? But it's been so many years, I don't even remember playing anymore.
It was clear from Kermit's earliest days, playing at his neighborhood court, that nothing would come easily for him, in basketball or in life. Growing up on the rough streets of Washington, D.C. was hard enough, but his life at home only added to the struggle.
My mother was mentally ill, so we never grew up with my mom. Then my father remarried when I was in the 4th or 5th grade, and my stepmother came in. Not a pleasant woman, but you know, that's the way life goes.
Thought it was going to be great, but they seemed to have resented her. They sort of felt that she was a little too strong-willed for them. She reacted emotionally to most things.
She really knocked us down a lot. She keeps saying, you're going to be nothing, you're nothing, you're a piece of trash. And so most of the time, the conversation between me and my stepmother would be good morning and good night, and that was about the extent of it. You hope that's only the extent of it.
Determined to prove his stepmother wrong, Kermit would use her words as a source of motivation. And he found his refuge close to home on the local basketball courts.
I was very fortunate to be born 2 blocks from the most famous playground in D.C.
Whenever he had the opportunity to go to the playground, he was allowed to go. That was one of the joys of his life.
It's like winning $1 million every day. My heart would pound out my chest because I know in a few minutes I'm going to be down at the playground playing basketball. You have dreams, and you don't know what will become of them, but you have dreams, and this playground is what's helping you get to those dreams.
He had seen a lot of his neighborhood friends get caught up in drugs, get caught up in alcohol.
I would say half the people I played with growing up are dead or in jail.
He knew that's what he didn't want to happen to him. So he had a clear focus, and he had a plan, he had a dream, he had a vision.
Kermit was looking for a way out, and basketball would have to be his ticket. The problem was that his skills had yet to match his desire, but that wasn't enough to deter him.
I started practicing. I started reading books. I said, because even if I just go to the playground, I hope just to be good enough to play and not be made fun of on the playground. But I read a book about Spencer Haywood having a weight vest, and James Brown, who does Fox football now, was the best high school player in D.C. I heard that he jumped rope, so I bought a weight vest and I started jumping rope. I start off with probably 100 and 500 and 1,000. Then I got up to 10,000 times every night. I probably didn't miss a night for 5 years. It was fanatical.
While Kermit had excelled in pickup games, he had yet to make a name for himself in organized basketball. But he still had confidence and determination. All he needed was a break.
I first saw Kermit. He was at an all-star camp trying to make the team. He shouldn't have even been there, to tell you the truth. Somehow he talked himself into a tryout.
I worked really hard. I didn't make it, but I had about 3 or 4 people from university see me, and they said, gosh, we'll give you a scholarship.
He was really aggressive. He went after every loose ball, and he was the kind of guy that looked like, you know, if you spend some time with, he might become a player.
Kermit would take the next step in his unlikely success story when he received a basketball scholarship to American University. The only thing he had ever asked for was a chance. Now, he had it.
All I ever dreamed about was becoming a professional athlete. That's all I ever wanted to be. My whole room was full of nothing but Sports Illustrated for 10 years. I would take the front cover off and plaster it on my wall. And every morning I'd wake up, I said, I'm gonna be like them one day.
Kermit Washington arrived at American University in 1969 as a skinny freshman whose basketball prospects were uncertain at best.
He was, you know, this 6'5", 170-pound guy. And we're saying, well, you know, we kind of heard rumors about him. It's kind of difficult to envision this guy being a force in basketball. Then you watched him play the first couple times and you saw just this raw talent.
He just had an unimaginable desire to be good. You couldn't keep him out of the weight room. I'd say, Kermit, you know, you got to back off a little bit. And his comment always was, hey, I know I'm not as good as these guys, so I have to be stronger, I got to be quicker, I got to be in better shape.
I graduated about 240. So I gained 80 pounds through lifting weights in 4 years at American University. I realized if I outworked them, I would have a chance to succeed.
In his sophomore season, Kermit would burst onto the national scene as the country's second leading rebounder. And his adjustment to life on campus was proving to be just as successful.
He was just a guy everyone wanted to hang around with. I mean, he was just, you know, this icon on the university. He'd talk to anybody. I mean, he wanted everybody around him to have fun and have a good time. But he was always the same person.
It's amazing a guy can come from the background he had and go to American University and fit in and do all the things that he did, which he says it was the best 4 years of his life.
Kermit would even meet his future wife, Pat Carter, here. And it all seemed like fate.
Somehow we met at a basketball game. And I thought I was giving him a compliment when I said, gee, you're awfully skinny. Because, you know, girls always like to be thin. He was so upset with me. He wouldn't speak to me for the rest of the evening. And then we started dating ever since. We were together for the 4 years in college. He was very nice. And that is what really attracted me to him. He was nice. He was someone that you could talk to. He was someone that was real. He was someone that was considerate and very, very dedicated. There wasn't a day that we didn't go out and shoot hoops for hours so that he could practice. And we didn't go anywhere. There were no dates, nothing, until that was done.
Before his junior season, it seemed that Kermit's career had reached new heights when he was invited to try out for the 1972 U.S. Olympic team. But he was abruptly brought down to earth.
And I showed up to camp. It was at Air Force Academy. They had the meanest coaches in the history of mankind they could ever assemble. Very nasty men. Remind me of my stepmother. I mean, they were just nasty, nasty people.
And Kermit calls, he's out there for 3 or 4 days, and he says, Coach, he says, I'm telling you, they're all over me. And he says, I can't handle it very well.
And really had Kermit really depressed and disturbed about
how well he was playing or not playing, and whether or not he was even being given a fair chance to compete.
So I called Bobby Knight and said, Bobby, what's with Kermit? He says, Tom, he says, this is the instructions we had. We are really going to find out who can take it and who can't, and so therefore we're all over Kermit like we're all over everybody else.
I mean, you'd say what you say to any teammate or to any friend is, hey, don't let it bother you. Just play your game. Forget about him. He's, you know, you're going to be playing for him for a week. Basically, his response to that was, well, I can't. And, you know, he's just upsetting me so much.
And I said, I'm not used to people grabbing me and yelling. I said, tell me what you want me to do and I'll get it done. Well, son, just come get your ticket. You need to go home. I said, well, I'll be there and get my ticket then.
For the first time in his life, Kermit's determination and hard work had not paid off. His tough exterior hid his sensitive nature.
But that's the kind of guy he was. You know, he's not the kind of guy that you would be looking and saying every day was a confrontation with him. Every day was everything but that.
So they wrote in a magazine, Kermit Washington, it was my junior year, very disappointing at Olympic trials. We think he'll have a disappointing year. Yeah, I didn't have a disappointing year.
In fact, Kermit became the nation's leading rebounder. He would also have the chance to join an exclusive club as just the 7th player to average 20 points and 20 rebounds for his college career, a feat achieved by the likes of Bill Russell, Elgin Baylor, and Julius Erving. But it would take a supreme effort in his final game.
He needed 39 points to hit the 20. The rebounds he had.
So we're playing Georgetown, local rivalry, and it's the last game of the year.
I said, my God, I'm a nervous wreck. I felt the pressure. But I said, you know what, I'm so nervous, I might not even score a point in this game. I sat down on the bench and it was like somebody put a warm blanket over my whole body, honestly. And I just relaxed. I went out there and I think I made my next 15 shots.
He's throwing in hook shots from like the foul line.
I was making shots and it's almost like it's a miracle that I had never even practiced.
And we're kind of laughing at this point because, I mean, he's doing things that, you know, he never had done before.
My final basket was a left-hand hook. I had never practiced it in my life. Never.
When it was all said and done, he comes out with about 30 seconds to go and he's got 40 and 28.
I didn't want to go to sleep that night because, honestly, I didn't believe, I thought it was a dream.
Leading his school to the best season in its history, Kermit became both a first-team All-American and an academic All-American. His childhood dream of playing in the NBA would be realized when the Los Angeles Lakers made him the 5th pick in the 1973 draft. But for Kermit, both success and disaster waited on the horizon.
From nothing to compete with Dr. J and Kareem and those guys, they were on my wall growing up, so I was very happy, very proud.
As Kermit joined the Lakers in 1973, it seemed the culmination of all he had worked for. He arrived as one of the league's highly touted rookies, only to find himself still in the familiar role of underdog.
The Lakers drafted me 5th player picked, and they told me they didn't need me right away. They had Happy Hairston, Bill Bridges, Connie Hawkins. They had good players. Oh, I thought I was going to play, though.
But it didn't take long for disappointment to set in. Everything Kermit had achieved in high school and college meant nothing now. He was just another rookie trying to prove himself at the NBA level. And he wasn't getting much of a chance to do it.
He had worked so hard, and then all of a sudden not to work. You know, as that he would still go out to the gym, he'd still run, he still did everything that he could do to be a good player, and he wasn't getting any playing time.
We were out there getting all this playing time as rookies, and he was frustrated because he couldn't play. So what he did was he lifted weights. And every time you saw him, he just got bigger and bigger and bigger. It was incredible.
The guys who used to train me would be Mr. Universe and Mr. Olympia. And I used to pay them to train me to get me bigger and stronger.
And you just push up against him and go, oh, that's going to be what I'm going to have to do all day today. You might have a macho sense, but your inner sense, your subconscious says, I don't know if I'd like to do that today.
I was at the Forum at a Laker practice, and suddenly, abruptly, about 45 minutes into the workout, everything stops. Kareem walked up the stairs of the Forum and out the arena. And I remember one of the other Lakers saying, fellas, practice is over. And Kareem had left because Kermit had smacked him around in practice.
I practiced hard because I wanted to get off the bench. And I never thought about money. I didn't say, well, I want to get off the bench so I can make more money. I wanted to get off the bench so I could play. That's all I cared about, playing.
In 1976, Jerry West took over as head coach, part of a Lakers shakeup that included replacing general manager Pete Newell. He was the man who had drafted Kermit, but ironically, it took his departure to save the young forward's career.
Ike, it's much better shooting the ball from here than from back here, right? No, glass. Go again. Hold it up, just shake.
Today, Pete Newell is a legendary big man coach. He began his tutoring after leaving the Lakers, and his first pupil was Kermit.
I walked up to his office, I said, Pete, will you take the time to work with me, please? I heard that you're a good coach and you're a good teacher. Will you please take some time and work with me?
He would pick me up, and we practiced at Loyola early in the morning before anybody else came around. Just him. One person, he takes a lot of beating because he has to do everything. The first thing I tell you is you look at the basket. Good. I want you to read and react now. That's it.
I mean, he would put me through drills where I would go to bed at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I was so worn out. I mean, it's like, I used to call it the baton death march or something. But he says, if you learn this, you'll play.
Not only did he earn more playing time, he emerged as a starter for the Lakers and became one of the team's key contributors. Newell's guidance had made an astonishing difference.
Kermit Washington, he's a force inside.
Pete's sense of the game really helped Kermit develop a court sense. You know, what he could do and when he could do it. He really helped Kermit find his way with his skills.
Day and night, the difference in him. And his work ethic and his strength and quickness he was relentless.
The 1977 season would prove to be Kermit's best. As a budding star, he helped the Lakers win the Pacific Division with the NBA's best record, and they advanced to the Western Conference Finals. Things couldn't have looked brighter. The team was poised to compete for a championship, and Kermit was being recognized as one of the game's best young forwards. He could not have foreseen the troubles that lay ahead. As the Lakers prepared for the 1978 season, they had high hopes of competing for a championship, and Kermit was a large part of their plans. His toughness was just what they needed in the NBA of the 1970s, where teams often played a bruising style of basketball. Players drove the lane at their own risk, as defenders imposed punishment as a form of intimidation. And sometimes the battles in the paint erupted into full-scale confrontations.
When you looked at the league then compared to today, it was a lot more physical. It was a much more aggressive game.
For a guy like me who played guard, you had to pick and choose your time to go to the basket. Because if you went to the basket and you maybe made a great play on a big guy, you tricked him once or twice, the next time he was going to run you over. That was the nature of the game.
You had people on all teams that did that same thing and were physical big guys that wanted to make a statement.
You had Bob Lanier, you had Wes Unseld, you had Walt Bellamy, you had Kareem, you had Spence Haywood, you had Nate Thurman.
Curtis Perry and Dave Cowens are at it.
I played with Dave Cowens. If you accidentally elbowed Dave Cowens, he's going to hit you. It was going to fight.
There were a lot more fights then, a lot more fights.
Gerald Dawkins and Maurice Lucas. Somebody do something. It's Dawkins and Lucas. Dawkins and Lucas. Jack Ramsey.
You knew in those days that the game was aggressive and it was a game of intimidation. So you had to be strong.
Kermit had worked hard to build himself into a stronger player to compete in the rugged 70s. Every team wanted tough players who could protect their superstars, and Kermit had grown into that role with the Lakers. But he also acquired an unwelcome label.
The bigger he got, the more he lifted, the stronger he became, the wider he got, the tougher he was perceived to be. The enforcer role came naturally to him, even though I think it was one he really didn't want or crave.
I would say to you, enforcer's a bad word. No, you need somebody big, strong that did their job.
He was a big, strong, quick forward that was a no-nonsense type of a player you don't want to play against, all business, and he's coming at you.
He was the guy that was going to get the rebound, play the tough defense, guard the toughest offensive big man. He was very physical. If he went to box you out, he boxed you out. If he went for a rebound and he was coming through pulling, he was going to pull you out of the way. It was just that he was so strong that maybe his pull was a lot different from someone else's.
Is he nasty? No, he's just aggressive. And do you like it? No, you don't like it. But he's not going to back down because he knows that's why he's in the NBA. That's his livelihood.
It was an image that would be reinforced with a cover story in Sports Illustrated, in which Kermit reluctantly appeared.
I didn't want to do it. And I had told the people in Sports Illustrated I didn't want to do it. But Jack Kent Cooke is not like an owner that when he tells you to do something, you do it. So I became one of the, 12 enforcers in the NBA, and so that did label me. That did not help.
What it did was glamorize the violent part of sports, especially in basketball, because the word enforcer can imply dirty play also.
As the 1978 season began, a violent tone was set right from the start. In the Lakers' opening game, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar was involved in a frightening altercation with Milwaukee center Kent Benson. After breaking his hand with a punch, Kareem would miss 20 games, and the NBA realized it would have to confront a growing problem.
I don't believe anyone, David, around this country goes into one of our 22 franchise city arenas and says, I want to buy a ticket because I might see a fight tonight. They buy a ticket to see a great sport played by the greatest participants in the sport in the world. And that's what it's all about, and that's what we've got to hold it to and keep it to somehow.
2 months later, the Lakers hosted the Rockets at the Forum. And once again, conflict seemed to come out of nowhere. As Rudy Tomjanovich lay in an LA hospital with devastating head injuries, Kermit Washington exited the Forum on December 9, 1977, unaware of the damage left in his wake.
I didn't know he was hurt at all, really. But still, I knew something was going to happen. You can sense it. I got home, and I told my wife, I said, you know what? I'm in trouble. She says, why? I said, I know something is not right. I'm in trouble.
I had no idea what had happened until the next morning when I went to the newspaper, and it just looked like, LA Times just had a field day with it. An absolute, utter field day.
In less than 24 hours, the Punch began a whirlwind of press coverage about fighting and the toll it was taking on the NBA.
Something has got to be done. A stand has got to be made right now where the commissioner has to make an example of someone before someone gets killed.
Kermit was the public relations disaster that the NBA was never prepared to deal with. When you come to find out that a man's face has been turned inward by the force of a blow, and that his face is in the shape of Kermit Washington's fist, you know that a professional sports league is going to take action.
For 48 hours, Commissioner O'Brien deliberated over the penalty Kermit would face, while the damage to Rudy Tomjanovich screamed in the press, bringing constant reminders of the incident's severity. The commissioner would respond: a 60-day suspension, the stiffest in sports history.
After we realized the extent of the damages to Rudy, cracked skull, broken jaw, we knew when someone gets hurt to that extent, You know, the league, the teams, they're all going to make examples.
I just found out yesterday I'm going to have surgery on both my eyes. You know, one eye for a tear duct and the other eye for, I guess, a hole in the back of the eye. I don't know exactly what it was, but...
The NBA did the right thing in making a statement that now this violence stops. So the NBA had no alternative but to do something to curb the violence.
Writers would quickly spread the message that the punishment fit the crime, but Kermit was the last to find out his fate.
Ted Green is the one that told me I was suspended. We flew to New Orleans, and I knew they were going to come down with their verdict, and he knocks on the door.
He opened the door, and I told him, I need to find out how you feel about this. And he said, how I feel about what? I said, how you feel about being suspended for 2 months. You're not going to be playing for 60 days.
And I said, okay. So I just got my bags and went on home.
Kermit returned to Los Angeles to serve out his suspension. And 2 weeks later, his downward spiral would continue.
I was traded. The next I heard, Chick Hearn called me and told me I was traded to Boston. I didn't hear from anybody from the Lakers at all.
I just remember that we just were totally cut off. We didn't hear from anyone. Nobody from the office called. It was like we just failed to exist.
He did become a pariah, and the Lakers set that in motion. It was cold. It was heartless.
You know, it was like he just was sent into exile.
That was a time that we should have embraced him and showed him we cared, but it was, you know, there's a door, and I don't think anyone liked it. But you have to have people that work within an organization that are willing to lose their job over a decision like that. And I would have lost my job if I would have been there. There's no way. They would have had to fire me. I would not have traded him. But it didn't make any difference what I would say, because I would show up to practice and there would be a new player there that I didn't even know they'd acquired during the night. It's probably one of the reasons why I didn't want to ever coach anymore. It was one of the most troubling times of my life, and frankly, it's probably the first time I've been as candid about it. But as you get older, you probably don't give a damn what you say.
Kermit's time away from the game he loved was only part of the punishment. His judgment in the court of public opinion was the harshest.
They made Kermit into a thug who had no control and who was out there to hurt people. And that was going to be his image. He had no chance. Certainly, no one wanted to hear his side of it.
I tell you exactly how much I weighed the day that fight broke out. 224 pounds. In the newspaper next week, I was 6'9", 250. I kept getting bigger and bigger. I knew that I had no chance.
I did a huge story in the Times about the death threats, and there were over 100. Not just aimed at Kermit, but at his family.
All the letters they sent, it was just the phone calls, the things that people said to you. They were mean. People were just ugly.
They came over to our place just to get out of the house and be with other people. It was very good for them because people threw things at his windows. I think it even broke windows. And she was afraid to death to even be in the front part of the house.
The worst was my gynecologist, who sent his partner in to tell me that he couldn't stand the sight of me and wouldn't deliver my baby.
The ripple effect of the punch was far-reaching. And for Kermit, it was a shadow that followed his every step.
He hit my friend. You know, he did some damage to my friend. Whether he meant to do it or not, he did it. And when you act or react, you've got to be willing to deal with the aftermath.
Kermit was facing an uphill battle. He couldn't have known how much he would continue to be haunted by the night that changed 2 lives with 1 punch. Although he suffered devastating injuries in the incident, Rudy Tomjanovich eventually returned to the Rockets recovering not only physically, but psychologically.
I found that the best way, and probably the only way that I could move on, is that I had to forgive Kermit Washington.
Kermit had been traded to Boston, where he finished the 1978 season. And it seemed like a new start as he became a contributor for the Celtics.
Very nicely done by Kermit Washington.
I played really well in Boston. I love playing with Havlicek and Cowens.
Here is Washington to the basket, and Kermit Washington really getting his game together.
His reprieve in Boston was short-lived, however, as he was traded from team to team, never able to rehabilitate his tarnished reputation.
I was tired of trying to prove myself. I get in trouble in LA, I have to go to Boston, reinvent myself again. Then they send me to San Diego, had to win those people over. Then they sent me the next year to Portland, and I was just worn out of trying to prove myself because the stories followed me everywhere I went. Everywhere I went, Kermit Washington, the guy who almost killed Rudy Tomjanovich.
He played for 3 teams in 5 years. But at every stop, he was haunted by fallout from the incident.
The police would tell me I could never order room service with my name because they think they would poison it down in the kitchen or spit in it or do something to it. And so I'd always have to use somebody else's room or something else like that.
Drained by the physical and mental toll of his turbulent career, Kermit retired after the 1982 season. He hoped to stay involved in basketball as a coach, but his future remained clouded by his past.
I've called a lot of people because I think he could help. He's really an expert. You know, he can't even get an interview.
Rejoining his Lakers mentor, Kermit worked with players at Pete Newell's famed big man's camp, but he still couldn't land a coaching job.
I wrote every team, and said, I'll work for you for free to show you what I know. If you don't like me after the year, don't pay me anything and fire me. Nobody would even write me back or even call me back.
And so it was time to face a painful reality. For the first time since childhood, he was out of the game that had always been his refuge.
I was under so much stress, I always felt sick. I mean, tired all the time, which maybe is a point of depression. I don't know. But I was always tired. Going to bed at 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock, I was just completely exhausted every day. Basketball was my identity. And so people say, well, it's only a sport. No, it's not just a sport, it's who you are. The image that they portray me as, I could never overcome.
Has he been blackballed? I don't think he has. Shucks, there's so many quality former players out there that are vying for the jobs.
But for Kermit, it wasn't easy letting go. And now he was left to ponder what might have been.
If that thing didn't happen that night with Rudy and Houston, I might have ended my career as a Laker. If I had stayed in Boston, I'd have been with the Bird teams, and I'd probably have been part of a championship team there.
Without basketball, and with nowhere else to turn, Kermit had reached his lowest point. He knew it would take something miraculous to turn his life around. Kermit Washington had retired from the game he loved, hoping to move on with his life. But no matter how many years went by, the stain of his past never seemed to fade.
I still can't really imagine that one moment on a basketball court, however, horrifically bad it turned out, could have changed one person's life so much.
Kermit knew he needed to somehow find a new path, but he had no idea what it would be. Finally, sitting at home in Portland, the idea struck him like a lightning bolt.
The situation in Rwanda came around. I was watching television. I said, this is ridiculous. I can help. I can do more.
He really wanted to know what was going on, and he had an opportunity to go over and see it. And to see all those dead bodies, to see those people suffering, it really made a lasting impression on him. He just thought that there had to be something that could be done.
And just like that, he was off to Africa. Basketball had always been his life, but now he had found a new purpose, and he embraced it with the same passion he had always brought to the game.
But if you want to give, you're saving people's lives. And these people are going to die, a lot of them, because they don't have these things that we take for granted in life.
And in saving the lives of others, he found his own salvation. Taking his mission to Nairobi, Kermit launched Project Contact Africa. He would use his own money and energy to provide orphanages, clinics, and medical supplies for impoverished people in Africa.
For the last 10 years or more, we've been going over, taking medicine and doctors and helping as many people as we can. This is antifungal. It kills the fungus immediately, it suffocates it, so they'll have purple hair for a couple of days, but then it'll be all gone. There'll be no more ringworms, because they can lose all of their hair from ringworms, go on their face, their stomach, their hands. It can be ugly.
To spend the time and put yourself in that environment, how much effort goes into it as far as organizing doctors and nurses and getting medicine and helping people pay for the medicine. That's what he was all about.
He was very sick the last time we were here. Big old stomach doesn't mean they eating good. No. And he still doesn't look like he's up to 100%.
To him, he says he hasn't done much, but to us, he has done a lot.
He looks better now than he did, though.
Yeah.
So quiet.
I think he learned a lot about life and about people when he started working with those people in Africa that had nothing. He realized, you know, in a sense, how lucky he was.
There's Kermit purging his demons, doing this good work, this important work, and I think that comes from his heart. I think it's what he wants. I do think it gives him some peace and maybe even some closure.
I remember you.
This guy.
I remember you from last year. Let's see. You're good. I'm very proud of what I do over there. And so even though sometimes I'm not proud of some things that I've done or been part of, but that I'm very proud of.
Kermit had found a new life, but ironically, letting go of basketball would lead him back. Trying to expand his charitable efforts, he reached out to the NBA.
What he presented to us was a proposal or an idea that looked terrific. And we said, you know, this looks like a good project.
So I said, you know what? You guys are getting millions of dollars in fines, and you're giving it to the charity of your choice. How about giving some of that money to go over there and help what I do overseas? So you have tens of thousands of people that are helped in Africa because of that.
And as Kermit opened new doors for his future, he opened another door to his past.
I had to work in Africa for a month. And so as I came back, I just saw a message from the NBA. He says, well, would you be interested in being an assistant coach in the D-League? I said, I'd be willing to do anything.
He'd been away from the game for nearly 2 decades, but he came back like he never left.
I know if you're going to go through it, make sure you do it correctly. Hands up! Hands up! Hands up! Get back! Hands up! Don't get too low. Take the ball and kill these guys. Okay, well, demand it. You got all these pro scouts watching you. We can help you. Help yourself.
In his one season with the Asheville Altitude, Kermit would earn a title, his first at any level. And another phone call, this time from the NBA's Denver Nuggets.
I appreciate you letting me come here and do this.
We got a big one down there for you.
You want me to work?
He's not quite as big as you, but...
Oh, he is bigger than me. He's 320. He's a big guy. If you learn the fundamentals as strong as you are, you shouldn't be able to be stopped. Even though when you're right here, if you just step one step to the ball, even though you're low, then you got space to get to space.
Kermit's very comfortable working with players, so I think that he really enjoys this. This is something where he knows he's very competent. Once he got here and saw the guys, he just jumped out in the court.
I'll give you a C+ on that one.
When his preseason stint with the Nuggets was over, he returned to his full-time passion, his charity work. Whether he'll rekindle his love affair with basketball in the long run, not even he knows. But one thing is for sure, Kermit is finally at peace.
Love is not love until you give it away.
If I do get an opportunity, I'll be very happy. If I don't, it's not like I'm going to hang my head and just, say, woe with me. The journey is sometimes better than the prize.
Kermit has finally been able to put his past behind him. But the question remains, will others be as forgiving?
That's going to be hard for people to let that go, but it can be let go of. It just is a personal decision. Do you want to remember him for something that happened that was truly just an instant in time, or do you want to remember the individual for the painstaking hours and years and the real positive contribution that they've made to human society? So it's a choice that people have to make.
Oh, this gentleman here, do you know his name? No. And why haven't you asked? Now, can you ask him his name?
What's your name?
Don't tell him. He's shy, so he's not going to tell you the name. But one of the days you'll find out.
He has been, shall we say, haunted by a moment in time. The opportunity for him to express himself, either as a coach or as a doer of great deeds, is a spectacular outlet, and he's to be commended for that. And I would like nothing better than for him to find happiness, whatever he does.
This is a special occasion, and I just want to thank God for you that you have come. When you go back home, go back with our greetings and our love, and tell them to continue praying for us.
I have to wish the best for him. I don't like to see people suffer. He made a mistake, and everybody deserves another chance.
Thank you, Mr. Washington.